everybody. My name is Wes.
My name is Matt.
And today you're joining us for our first ever MasterClass.
Yes, with ChurchTrac for the People Screen. We're going to be covering everything to do with how to get the most out of the People Screen in your ChurchTrac account.
And this is way more than just your standard overview of how to do this, how to do that. The whole point of this is to dive really deep into the People Screen to help you become a professional at it. Now, before we dive into all the things, first and foremost, Matt, our YouTube channel.
Yes, we have a fantastic YouTube channel. I'll be dropping the link into the chat for you all to have ready to go. Go ahead and click on that link in the chat. That way you can have that tab open when this workshop is over. You can subscribe to that YouTube channel. We have over 150 videos describing and detailing how to use every feature of your ChurchTrac account, and also other workshops like this one and some other really cool content we've been making. So go ahead and subscribe so you can stay up to date on everything we're doing there.
Psh, listen. There's also this awesome thing called the ChurchTrac Users Group, if you haven't heard about it. That is just such a great place to hang out with other ChurchTrac users from all around the world, talk about the software, talk about better ways to utilize it, talk about how ridiculous Matt and I are on these live streams, whatever you want to talk about. So go ahead, jump on there and ask to join that. And then lastly, when it comes to getting help, Matt, what's the best way to get help in ChurchTrac?
You can always reach out to the support team and in a support ticket. Always just click the orange help button in the top right-hand corner of the screen in your ChurchTrac account. Wes is zooming in right now so that no matter what screen you're watching this on, you can see it. But if you click that orange help button, a little drop-down window appears, and there's always two buttons at the very bottom. One says Show All Help Topics, the other says Ask Us a Question. Ask Us a Question opens up a support ticket from within your account, so you can reach out to the support team anytime.
Yeah, and anytime people are needing to reach out to our support team, it's super fast.
Yes.
Matt, we're going to have some fun today.
Oh, yes, and we're going to have a blast.
We have the chat wide open here, so that way we can converse with you all. Now, if you're watching this at a later time, unfortunately, you're not watching live, but you can still ask us questions via support ticket.
Absolutely.
But we're going to keep this chat wide open live. Just know that we're going to have a dedicated Q&A today where we'll be able to answer your questions and everything live here in air today. But we have a lot of content to go through that we're going to be going through as well. So just keep that in mind. Now, before we dive into this masterclass, Matt, I think it's good to gauge just where people are right now. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being you are a professional at ChurchTrac.
10 meaning you could take our jobs.
Yes, and then 1 being that you're just figuring things out, like you just started yesterday. Tell us in the chat, where are you? 10 being a professional, 1 being you just started and you're learning all the things. That way I kind of know the crowd here. And here's the thing, it doesn't matter if you're a 5, it doesn't matter if you're a 7, it doesn't matter if you're 1. The whole point of this is helping you become a master of the People Screen in ChurchTrac.
Jeannie says she's a 6, Karen 6, Chris 5, Patty 6, Lynn is 8. It looks like 6s are pretty well represented in this group today. I see some 8s, some 7s, some 1s. I see Zena, you're a 1, and Alan, you're a 1. Happy to have you here so that you can learn, and I think the 1s are probably going to get the most out of this than anyone else, to be perfectly honest.
So someone says 11. Yeah. I'm coming from your job.
Nick, all right, come on, man.
Bring it. All right, so
love it.
Enough of the pleasantries, Matt. Let's dive into all this. We've got a lot of stuff that I want to cover. And to get started, we go to the People Screen in ChurchTrac. So enough of the support page. We're on the home screen right now is when you first log into ChurchTrac, obviously.
Yes.
People Screen is where we want to go. Now, it looks like I have a new registration to match. That's something I'm going to go ahead and just delete right now because I don't want to get bothered while we're doing this live stream.
Absolutely.
All right, so People Screen. So when you log into People Screen, step 1, we always tell people, is adding all your people. So
Yes.
if you haven't done all that, you need to add your people and everything.
Yeah, for everybody that answered 1, I see Deidre. There's a few people still answering the question.
Yeah.
If you're a 1, definitely make sure, you're probably still adding people or haven't done that yet. Add all of your people to the People Screen. All of your members, your supporters, your guests, everybody. This is important because honestly, most of the features in ChurchTrac tie back to the people screen in one way or another. So
Yes.
even though we're talking about the people screen today, you won't be able to utilize the other features in the account to their fullest potential until you have your members added. So that's step one.
Yeah. Now let's move way past step one because I want to dive into this. So the first thing I want to talk about is this actions button, because I feel like the actions button is probably one of the most powerful buttons in the people screen, and not enough people
But also
use it.
underutilized. Yeah.
Yes, completely. So when I click this actions button, everybody, many of you are probably familiar with it, but we can add names and families right from here. I can start setting up automations. I can delete a selected name, archive, blah, 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 blah. I want to really place a special focus, number one, on check all names, because as I just said, it checks all names.
Yes.
And number two, being able to uncheck all names. So
Okay.
that right there, that's like a basic thing, everyone, I want you to know about.
Get that muscle memory in
Yes.
for those buttons.
Because you're going to be doing that a lot. And the reason why you're going to be doing that a lot is because you're going to be doing a bulk edit on check names.
That to me is the biggest time saver. Outside of automations. Automations are obviously the biggest time saver because
Yes.
once you do it, like the system takes care of the rest. But a bulk action or a bulk edit is the biggest benefit or the biggest time saver in the ChurchTrac account by far.
So when you're doing a bulk edit, in the software, we give you the ability to do a lot of different things. And so just to show you really quick, you can, from here in the bulk edit option, I can update a field value, I can add a tag, I can remove a tag, and I can archive names. So just the sole fact that I can update a field value, and so I can say, hey, this particular member status, I want to update across all these people. I want to change it to covenant members per se, or maybe I want to change it to guests, whatever. So this is going to save you an incredible amount of time when you're trying to perform an action to a lot of people in your church database.
Yes.
So if you are not using this feature, you need to start using it like today.
I can imagine a lot of people viewing right now. You're probably in a scenario where you're just getting started with your people screen, or you've got all your members, but you're just wanting to learn the rest of the features in the people screen and how to use it to its fullest potential. And like, if you're just adding tags, we'll get into tags in a minute. This is a great opportunity to learn and have that muscle memory for the bulk edit, because you're creating a tag and then having a whole team of people you need to assign it to. You can just apply it to everybody all at once.
Yes. Now, going beyond the bulk edit the feature, so I'm going to go ahead and uncheck these names. Another thing I want to bring special attention to is archive, because archive is probably one of the most underutilized tools in the software in terms of the people screen.
Yes.
That I think a lot of people are missing out on. Number one, listen up. It can save you a lot of money because many of you know, ChurchTrac is based on the number of names you're adding to your people database. Archive names do not count. Sorry, I just yelled at you, but I'm just stressing this so much. I want you to not have to go up a name tier needlessly. And so when you're archiving names, basically what you're doing is saying, hey, I don't need this information for this particular name anymore, so archive selected name. And then that way I can go ahead and have that name archived in my database. Such a great thing to be able to do that.
Yes, and like Wes said, archive names don't count towards your member cap. So if right now you're in a subscription plan or a name tier, and you have a whole lot of names that have been added in, but maybe a lot of those names are old, like they're no longer around, they've passed away, you could probably, there's a good chance that you could archive enough of those names to bring your church down into a lower name tier and save your church money. That's what Wes is getting at when it comes to archive names don't count towards your name tier or your member cap.
Yeah, that's a big thing. And yes, I already preemptively knew, Beth, you were going to ask, can you reactivate archive names? Yes, absolutely. And you just select view archive names. And from here, I've got all my list of archive names. At any time, I can restore name. Now here's another last kicker, and then we'll move past archive names. When you're archiving a name, you can still generate a contribution statement for that archive name during that time period. And so if you have a lot of first-time donors, or not first-time, single donors, maybe someone donated.
They just visited on Christmas or Easter, made a donation.
And that was it.
That was it.
So archive them, and then you can still generate their contribution statement and save a lot of money. There you go. Okay, that's one thing I really like to impress upon everyone when it comes to the actions button. Now let's move past the actions button. Let's talk about fields.
Fields, yes. This is the next most important thing in your people screen, because fields are where you're storing all of your data and all the information on your members. You actually can create your own fields. Now, first, let's talk about member status, though. I'm getting a little ahead of us.
Yeah.
You actually can customize the member status for your church. That's important because as you're adding your people and your families, you've probably noticed that there's a drop-down menu for listing someone as like a member or a guest or a contributor or a this or a that, and it's all preloaded in your account. But maybe your church uses different language or different terms for these people, or you have a whole other categories.
And so just to quickly show that, like I'm just going to pick a random name here. We'll just do Emily. So whenever I go to edit Emily's profile, I scroll down just a hair, I can see the member status. And so this is where you can select the status of member. Now this does not affect, like it has nothing to do with archive names. This has nothing to do with names that count towards your name tier. It is basically just kind of like signifying this is the member status of this person. That's all that is.
What Wes is getting at is a lot of questions that we get are revolved around like, do guests count towards our member tier? And the answer is yes. Any name on the people screen, no matter what their member status is, counts towards that member tier.
Yeah.
So just be aware of that. Only archive names are what don't count.
Correct. Now, when it comes to member status, see this little cogwheel here, and I'll zoom in. I want everyone to see this. I can edit this list at any time. So I highly encourage you, click edit, and from here, you can create your unique member status for your church. For example, at my church, we call them covenant members. That's just how we decided to call them.
Yeah.
Your church may call it member. Your church may call it attendee. Whatever it may be. Yeah, just rhyme. That's fun. But
you're an original Dr. Seuss.
The whole point of this is to customize this for your church. You can also move these around, by the way, so you can have these in different locations for the drop down when you select the member status for your people, adding additional options if I want to do that. So I could just call this like attendee if I wanted to, if I could spell attendee right. So that's the whole point of that with the fields.
Nice.
All right, now going past the member status.
Age categories. Yeah.
Age categories is a big one. And so let's go ahead, scroll down a little bit. We see this age category here of a person. And so I can select a particular age category with those age ranges for a person. Here's the key. See that edit list button?
I sure do.
When I select that, that brings up all of our age categories. And so from here, you have a few different things you can customize. Number one, you can customize the names of these things. So if I wanted to call this the little ones, I could call them the little ones instead of the nursery, whatever I want to call them. I can put the age category for this. Now, by default, we do a pretty good job at ChurchTrac of already having the age categories and the names of them. So you may not even need to touch this much, but I just want to stress that you can customize the names and the ages. One thing you mentioned about the age range, like you can't have them overlap.
Yeah, the numbers in the parentheticals, the parentheses next to each name can't overlap. And what I mean by that is you can't have 0 to 1 under little ones and then 1 to 3 on the toddlers and preschool, or like what Wes just demonstrated, 0 to 2 and then 2 to 4.
Yeah.
Because you can't be in the little ones and the toddlers and preschool at the same time.
Yeah.
So just make sure that the next set, the next age category has a different, like has the next number in that sequence, not the same number as the last one.
Yeah. Now, the other thing I want to talk about this is being able to auto-assign the age categories based on the current age.
Yes.
This is key.
Yes.
Because at the school start time, we are getting ready to move all the kids to the next class, stuff like that. We want our age categories to properly go with that. And so you can actually have the software anytime you can select this button and it is automatically going to update it to all the names in your database, all of them. Now it only updated for one name because I already did this the other day.
Yeah, and there's only been one birthday since then.
Yeah, but you get the point. So if you're doing this once a year, maybe once every 6 months, maybe you do this once a month, you can do that with the software. Now, when you start getting into like assigning the classes, a lot of churches are going to use tags for that, but we'll talk about tags in a minute. So that is that one. Now, let's go beyond the fields in terms of the member status and the age category. Let's talk about user-defined fields.
Yes,
custom
because
fields.
Every single church is unique. We already have fields preloaded in your account when you first get started, but a lot of those aren't going to serve your needs completely. You have information that you want to store on your members that's unique to your church. You can create fields for that under the user-defined fields section. So all you have to do is just click the setup button at the very top of your ChurchTrac account on the people screen, and then choose user-defined fields. We call them user-defined fields. These are custom fields. This is just where you're going to customize that. But you can add fields under each individual's section and also under their family section. So you can do either of those areas of a person's profile and customize and store information there. Now, Wes, what would you say are some very common custom fields that a lot of churches like to have so that they can store that information?
I mean, the first one off the top of my head is the wedding anniversary.
Same.
That's a big one. Then you talk about churches maybe wanting to record first visit date, churches wanting to record the date someone became a member, the date someone got baptized,
yes,
if your church baptizes.
That's huge.
So, I mean, there's a lot of fields.
Yes.
That you can create. That's why we make custom fields, because that way you can customize your field specific for the needs of your ministry instead of having a church software that has all these random fields in it that you're never going to use.
Yeah, I've seen some churches, like we were talking about member status and covenant member. I've seen some churches have like a covenant that they, like the members sign, like a document that they fill out and sign to be a member of the church. And then they'll have, that church will create a field to store that PDF for that member.
Cool. So that is the user-defined fields. Now let's...
Well, FYI though, just as a little pro tip, when thinking through what fields to add, don't just add any and every field you think of. The reason why is simply because not every member needs that information stored. And also, like a lot of churches we see as they're just joining ChurchTrac, and they want to import their old database into ChurchTrac, they've got a mile-long list of fields they're storing information on for all their members.
Yes, they do.
And a lot of those fields were probably created 10, 15, 20 years ago and were relevant back then, but aren't anymore. Now, there's no better time than the present to clean up your people screen and your database and to get rid of irrelevant fields. Only ever create a field that will affect, let's say, at least half of your members.
Yes, and just to show what that looks like on the people screen, when I go to like a random person on my people screen, like I don't want to have just a swath of fields I'm having to go through. Like I've seen some churches where I have to scroll for quite some time because they have just 3 times as many fields as this, when the reality is those fields only apply for a small percentage of people. That's when you want to use tags.
Yes, tags.
Which we're going to talk about next. So let's talk about tags. Let me know in the chat, like, have you created some special tags for your ministry? Have you created tags for keeping track of attendance, tags for your scheduling, that sort of thing? I'd like to know. So Matt, tags, some people here may not be familiar with them or may just need a refresher of like how, like what is the whole point of tags in ChurchTrac?
So tags are essentially labels that you can apply to your members for a number of different reasons, but the main purpose is to understand how they're participating at your church or how they're plugged in at your church. You can create a tag, and we recommend creating a tag for every single team or role or ministry at your church. Now, FYI, if you're using the worship and scheduling screen and you've created teams and roles under the teams and roles tab there, I know we're kind of getting away from the people screen, but that actually creates tags on the people screen. So just FYI, go, if you have teams and roles, do that there. But there's other roles at churches that have nothing to do with being scheduled on a Sunday morning, like elders or something like that. You can create a tag for your elders and then assign that tag to all the people at your church that serve in that role. That way you understand at a glance what people are doing and where they are at your church, essentially.
Yeah, and just quickly, I mean, look at Emily's tag. She's in a discipleship group, worship team, children's ministry volunteer, evangelism tag, because you can use tags to describe spiritual gifts. I mean, all kinds of stuff. It's really great stuff. Now let's go a little bit deeper into tags. Now that we've kind of did that, I want to talk about attendance and scheduling because tags are used for that.
Yes.
And so whenever you're going to your tags tab, so people screen, go to your tags tab, we've got all these different tags here. And so worship team, this is a good example. And I've got 9 sub tags under that of my different roles in my worship team. But from here, you have the options on your tag where you can go ahead and say attendance tracking and check-in. Do you want to enable that? Yes or no. Use this tag for team scheduling and events. Yes or no. And so just make sure your tag, you've properly configured it as you assign these different tags that you have, you know, if you're wanting to schedule people with that tag, it needs to be active for that. If you're wanting to use it for directory group access, you can do that as well. You can even archive tags, which is really neat.
Like inactivate them.
Yeah, inactive or active. I said archive, but it's active or inactive. And this is great for tags that you use seasonally.
Yeah.
So that way you don't always have them pulled up there.
I'm thinking of tags related to like VBS.
100%.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So there's something I want to show. It's a little outside of the people screen,
Okay.
but it requires knowing how to use the people screen well. And that is utilizing tags for attendance tracking.
Yeah.
So here's the deal. Like, in order to track attendance in ChurchTrac, we have to assign those tags to people. And so just to give you an example, I've got my discipleship groups and then all my different subtags. So if I go to Adults 1, one of my discipleship groups classes, I've got 16 people assigned to this tag. I'll zoom in so you can see that. So I have 16 people assigned to this tag. So here's the deal. Now when I go to take attendance for that event, I can keep track of that attendance for those 16 people that are in that group,
right,
aka tag. But you can take things to another level. So when I go to the people screen, I want to show you this. So I am going to search my group leader for this small group. His name's Ron. Now, Ron is my small group leader, and he oversees this small group, and I want him to be able to track attendance in the church app.
Yeah.
So from here, when I go to Ron's tags, I can see that Ron has the discipleship group 1, adults 1 tag assigned to him. And do you see that little thing there, that little checkbox?
Yeah.
That's signifying that attendance tracking has been enabled for this specific individual for this specific tag.
Okay.
Are you following me?
Yes.
I know we're getting deep here, but so when I click this, I can see allow this person to enter attendance. Yes, it is enabled. And by the way, you can put a little memo on different tags if you want for a specific person if needed. So by doing this, Ron has the ability to track attendance in the church app. So now let's take a brief moment. I want to open up my phone because I want to show this. I want to show how cool this is when we start leveraging tags and utilizing these features in the people screen, how it applies to other features outside of it, aka Church Connect.
Church Connect.
So I'm opening up Church Connect here, and everyone should see my Church Connect app. So whenever you're logged into Church Connect as a church member, lots of churches I'm throwing out here, but church member, whenever I select this menu to the top left, from here I have the ability to go to upcoming events. And on these upcoming events, what do you know? There's Ron's group, because I'm Ron and I want to track attendance for my small group. So I could go ahead and select enter attendance. And now from here, I can enter attendance from my small group in my church's app. So
Perfect.
I can start just selecting everybody that was here, blah, blah, blah. This is how fast it is. All right, I've entered the attendance. If I wanted to, I could add like additional guests and I could put a number count if I want to do that. I could say maybe we had 2 guests as well.
Awesome.
And then from here, close. I just entered attendance.
Nice. As a leader.
As a
just
leader.
a volunteer small group leader.
Using the phone app, not even logging into ChurchTrac, but just using Church Connect, which is your app for your church members. So great.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so important to leverage these tags well, because they're used for more than just labeling people and knowing how they're plugged in or their spiritual gifts. We're using tags for being able to track attendance.
Yeah.
We're using tags for
Tags
scheduling.
are hugely multifunctional. You can also use tags for running reports. You can use tags for sending texts and sending
Yes.
emails, because you can send an email or any message to like anyone with that tag and no one else at your church. That way you can send very targeted stuff.
Yeah, and just to reinforce, whenever you select that tag on the people screen or on that person's profile, that's where you allow that person to enter attendance. But remember, if that tag, it doesn't have attendance tracking enabled for it, you're
That's
not
not
going
an
to see
option.
this.
Yeah.
So you need to remember that. Okay, now just another thing I want to show, I saw a church do this and I thought it was really cool. So going back to my tags tab, because tags, we're using these things to label people, right?
Yeah.
So as a church administrator or pastor or whoever you are that's wanting to leverage this software tool, you can use tags to keep track of the spiritual journey of your people. Mm-hmm. And so one thing I've seen some church leaders do, I think I already have it. Yeah, I created a discipleship journey tag. And under that, I have subtags where I created seeker, believer, worker, leader. That's just how my church kind of keeps track of the progression, where someone is in their spiritual journey.
Yeah.
So highly encourage using something like this to be able to not only put your people in groups and track attendance and all that, but to know their spiritual journey and to be able to better track that so that way we can disciple them. Because that's what it's all about,
That's
baby.
what it's all about, man.
All right, so that's tags. We could get deeper into all kinds of other areas of tags, but I think those are the really important things I wanted to cover.
That's a really good foundation, especially if you're not just wanting to get started with tags, but like actually utilize them to their fullest potential. Next up, though, is smart lists.
Yes.
The difference between tags and a smart list is a tag is a label, a smart list is a group, and it's the way you can categorize and organize your people screen. Because on the main people screen, Wes already has it pulled up. At the very top of those names, there's a drop-down list. And if Wes clicks on it, he can select one of these smart lists that this church has already created for this account and filter out everybody else. So if you want to look at just the members, you can pull up the member list. If you want to look at just the guests, just the students, just the children's ministry volunteers, this church has created smart lists for all of these different groups. And we call them smart because
they're smart.
That's perfect answer. They're automated. Instead of being a static list that you have to update manually, you just tell the system what criteria someone has to meet, and the system will sort those people into that list for you. So like in this case, the member list, Wes has already created this for anyone who has that member status of covenant member, and also whether they're an active member, not an inactive one. So yes, that's the member list, people who are actually participating and have done the whole membership process at this church. And then you can click on any others, like the children's ministry volunteers one. This church has a whole family of tags with all the different roles in the children's ministry, and as long as anybody has at least one of those tags on their profile, they're on this list.
Yeah.
So now everybody in the children's ministry is here in one list.
And just to show the power of tags like to another level, so like students. So I've created age category equals middle school, age category equals high school. Now they obviously can't be both of those, but if I select match any criteria, if they're one of those, they're going to show up on my people screen.
Yeah. And again, this is automated. Whenever you go into that age category list and you click that auto assign button that we showed you earlier, that will automatically sort some kids into this list and some kids out. Anyone that shifts in, like anyone that has their age updated to 13, they're automatically added, and when they're 19, they're removed.
Yeah, and they're automatically moved up to the college ministry, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Now you can take this to another level. Just to show you an example, like add criteria. So you can continue adding all these various criterias in ChurchTrac. And the other thing that you can do is you can actually put, this is kind of nuts.
Almost there. There you are.
You can get a smart list within a smart list.
This is smart listception.
Oh my gosh, smart listception, I love it. So I can say the smart list equals and then choose another smart list, and I'm just randomly picking stuff here, but then I can add that. And so not only can a person be either middle school or high school, but if they're a children's ministry parent, they can be on there. This would definitely not be the right use case, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
A smart list within a smart list.
Yeah. Come on. Actually, that's not bad if you create another smart list for like youth ministry parents and then add that in so that in that list of students, it also includes their parents.
There you go. See, that's being smart.
Yeah.
All right, so now let's move on past that. Let's briefly, I want to talk about how you can use smart lists beyond just like quickly journal lists, but like how it can really help you in a real world scenario.
Okay.
So for example, let's say, and I'll ask the question in the chat.
I'll ask it, you go ahead.
So do you have a lot of people at your church that you don't have their email address or maybe their cell phone number and you wish you had it? Maybe you've got like a whole just slew of people. You're like, I've got their email address, but I don't have their cell phone number. Or I've got their cell phone number, but I don't have their email address. Or maybe you're just like, I don't have any of their info.
Yeah, they're off grid.
In that case, they're probably not going to be in your database. But one thing I found that's really helpful is creating a smart list like this. This smart list, I just called it no cell phone number. And so what this is if their mobile phone field is blank and their email address is not blank, they're going to show up on that matching name. So then when I go to show the names, I've got 114 names in my database here of that. That's amazing.
Dude, David Jordan in the chat said, I have created 5 smart lists that checks for missing critical data so we can monitor the quality of data entry. It lets us know where we need to give attention for a more complete view of our church's family.
Yes.
Amazing, David.
So this is an amazing use of smart list to be able to know what data you're missing on people, stuff like that. And I think, Matt, this is the perfect segue to talk about messaging, since I'm already here.
Let's do it.
All right, so I've got this smart list pulled up of no cell phone number, but let's say I go back and I want to, no, we'll keep that, and here's why. So I'm going to go to my messaging tab in ChurchTrac, because after all, ChurchTrac is way more than just managing your church. It's about communicating with our people.
Yes.
So here, I can go and send an email. And so this email that I'm going to send, well, I am going to send this email to everybody, not my elders, but I'm going to send it to no cell phone number. And so now, this is an email message I'm sending to that smart list of everyone who have their email, but I don't have their cell phone number.
Yeah.
And so then I can say, hey, and then enter, here's another thing I want to point out.
Oh.
Hey, and then add recipient's name. So then I can put their first name because that actually makes them...
personalizes it.
Yes, it makes them more likely to actually read
Yes.
the email. And so, hey, name. And then I could say Wes at Potential Church. We need your number.
We need your digits.
We need your digits. We'll say that. We need your digits. I'm trying to update the stuff, blah, blah, blah. Whatever you want to say to your people.
Right.
And so this is kind of, I'm covering a bunch in this. I'm covering first the fact that you can target people and you should target people beyond just sending like a weekly newsletter to your whole church. But, you know, when you have opportunities to send a targeted message to people, use it so you can communicate with them better. But also utilizing this feature of adding the recipient's name so we can customize the email and being able to actually use this tool to get the information we need so we can, comes back to discipleship. Disciple our people.
Yes.
So that's a great thing. But another really cool feature of ChurchTrac Mail that I like to point out, if you didn't already know this, I can change the reply to. So I can say, hey, I'm sending out this email because I want to get everybody's information, but here's the deal. I'm sending it out as the pastor because I want to get this, but I don't have time to like get all these replies.
Listen, VBS is coming up. Maybe you're the pastor or the secretary and you want to send out a message to all of your members, but you want the children's ministry leader to field all the responses. You don't got time for that. You can do that. You can sit down and craft the message that you want to send out to everybody to announce this or that, but just have the person with a little more time on their plate to manage the fallout from that.
So that's a really great feature I always like to point out when you're using ChurchTrac Mail, which is our zero configuration email tool built into the software. Another thing I want to point out, I want to talk about texting. And more specifically, I want to talk about the fact that we can schedule text messages.
Yes.
Which is really nice. Now, let me know in the chat, are you a bivocational pastor or bivocational church leader where you're not doing this full time? You are working a full-time job, or maybe you're semi-retired, doing a part-time job, and you are a volunteer at your church, whatever it may be. Just let me know. I'm just kind of curious, because here's the deal. A lot of us in ministry, we're doing things at very odd times. Like we may be early birds. I'm an early bird, so I wake up at 5:30 usually at the latest. But you may be a night owl. I'm not a night owl, but you may be up till 12:30 at night doing all your church stuff. The last thing you're gonna do is send a text message at 12:30 at night to someone like me, because it's probably gonna wake me up. It's probably gonna wake up my baby, and I'm gonna be upset. Or maybe you're wanting to get things done early in the morning, but you don't want to wake up your people. It all comes back to waking people up, and we don't want to wake people up. So
let the sleeping dog lie.
Yes. So I can send a quick text to people. So hello everyone, blah blah blah. Whatever it is I want to text my people about. Here's what's great. I need to actually have recipients, and I can't send a text to, no cell phone number, so I'll send to everyone. So when I go to send this message, I can send it right now, or I can schedule it to send at another time.
Yeah,
and
don't you dare send a message at 12:30 in the morning.
So I'm going to send this maybe Friday, and I can pick a time on Friday, and I can say like 10:33 a.m., whatever, and then I can schedule that and send it. So that's just a really great tool. If you're not utilizing our mass texting, whether you've purchased your own number through Twilio or you have used our built-in messaging, highly recommend it.
Yep.
It is a great thing. And I see like there's a lot of people in here that are bivocational here. I would say that is like more so the norm to be bivocational than full-time for most church leaders. Because the average church is no larger than 150 to 180 people. So,
yeah, Luke even said he was bi and tri-vocational, so he's burning the candle on 3 different ends.
Oh man, yeah. So it's great to be able to schedule things and do things in your own time and not be a slave to the software having very specific parameters, which I love that about the software because it is so powerful, but yet still user-friendly. But enough about that. Let's talk about the last thing about messaging, auto replies.
Yes.
This is wild.
I love auto replies. I harp on it when I'm talking to churches in one-on-one workshops that I do with them. The best part about auto replies is it automates responses that your church can send to someone who texts your church. That offloads a lot of work and a lot of stress and worry about having to jump back into the account and send something really quick. This isn't in the people screen. We've been talking about the messaging tab. You have to go to the home and dashboard screen, And then on the Messages tab at the very top, click that. And then at the bottom, there's a little toolbar, and one of them says Set Up Auto Replies. If you click that, you can create a keyword that whenever someone texts your church text number, that word, you can then customize a response that gets sent to them automatically so that you don't even have to think about it. So like the scenario that I'm thinking of, Wes may have already pulled it up or he's creating it, I don't know.
Yeah, I'll create it.
Okay, let's just imagine that you have a guest at your church. You can just tell them, hey, just text this number up on the screen, the word new, or the word guest, or the word visitor, whatever you prefer.
Yeah.
So let's just say new or guest. There we go. Say guest. And then you can, in the message, in the text box below, say, hi, thanks for worshiping with us. We'd love to get to know you better. Please click this link below. You can link to like a form to collect their contact information, or maybe even a form card in Church Connect.
Highly recommend form card in Church Connect. That is like a slam dunk of a way to get people to connect.
Because then all that information is stored in one place.
Yes. Auto replies is so great for that. And the only caveat to auto replies is you have to be using Twilio. So Twilio is a third party we integrate with where you can purchase a phone number from them, connect it to ChurchTrac. It is great. So auto replies, we wanted to show that even though it's technically not on the people screen, it has everything to do with the people screen. So there you go. All right, now we've talked a lot about a lot. I want to move past messaging. I want to talk about reports very briefly, because the thing is, we have a lot of reports in ChurchTrac. I mean, just when I go on people's screen, I go to the reports tab. I mean, I've got
a whole menu.
I mean, I have all these reports that are just general reports. I have all these reports that are tag reports. I have all these reports that are attendance reports.
Frankly, I've said this before. We have so many reports. We could do the most boring live stream in the entire world. We could do a whole live stream just on the reports in ChurchTrac.
Well, I tell you what, on YouTube, if this thing gets 1,000 likes, I will do a live stream on reports.
If there's demand, we'll do it.
I won't like it, but I'll do it. But I want to point out a couple things on reports. The first thing I want to point out is mailing labels, just because here's the deal. We live in a digital age.
Sure.
A lot of things we're doing now in our communications is digital, but there's still a lot of times when we want to send out things.
Yeah.
Sending out mailing labels and having mailing labels built into the software. A lot of people don't know we have this in here.
Yeah, I get asked questions. I get asked about that in those Zoom workshops all the time.
Yeah, so here you go. You can create mailing labels in ChurchTrac. And again, you can assign that to everyone. You can use a specific smart list of guests if you're doing like mailers to people who have visited your church, whatever it may be. So mailing labels, we've got that built in the software. That's one thing I wanted to point out. The other thing I want to talk about is a custom report.
Right.
Because the custom reports in ChurchTrac, there's a lot of situations where you're like, I need a specific report that has this field, and this field, and it needs to have this group of people. That's what a custom report is.
Yeah, and even with the extensive number of reports we have built into the software already, every church has specific needs and wants out of their reporting. So you can, if you go through all those reports and you don't find one that has the information that you want or the information organized the way you want it, you can do that by creating a custom report.
Yeah, and this is very common, especially a lot of you wanting to create like printed directories for some of your members who want those printed directories.
We have directories already built in, but again, if those don't have what you want, you can create your own.
Yeah, and you can add all these different fields, specifically the fields you want, how much space you want in between them, the style. You have all these other advanced settings. So I encourage you, utilize those custom reports. I see a lot of churches use custom reports for different outreach things when they're trying to have a specific list of specific data to do outreach. So it really just comes down to what your church needs, but don't be afraid to use those custom reports. They're a valuable tool because those custom reports, you can also then have the software automatically send through automations. Whoop, did I say that? Automations? Oh man.
Now speaking of custom though, before we move on, one other report I would like to point out is the user-defined field report.
Yeah.
Just because if you have information that you've customized and added as a field on the people screen, chances are there's a good chance you want to run reports on that information.
Yeah.
So like the wedding anniversary example we gave a little while ago.
Yeah.
You could run a report to pull up a list of all upcoming wedding anniversaries this month or something like that, just as a simple example.
Yeah, and I would say this is probably one of the most popular reports I see churches use, just because there's a lot of unique scenarios. Like they maybe want to reach out to everyone who was baptized in a certain month and stuff like that. So there's a whole lot you can do with that. So that's a great thing. I'm glad you mentioned that, Matt. All right, automations. Is everybody doing good so far? I know we're coming we try to figure out, like, all right, doing a masterclass, we don't want to get too far, above everybody in here, but we also like want to have stuff that's going to really challenge you as well. I think this is the thing that's going to be the challenge, because using automations in ChurchTrac, even though automations isn't on the people screen, it very much requires every bit of the people screen, like most features in ChurchTrac, because the people screen is so paramount. So automations, let's talk about automations in the people screen in that context. So has anybody here created an automation yet? Let me know in the chat, or if you're watching a later time, you can't answer in the chat, but you can definitely create a support ticket and let us know if you created an automation. But automations in the people screen, the way you get there, you go to settings in ChurchTrac. This is where you get to automations. And so settings and the automations tab. Now, I was just messing around earlier and we were making up a birthday thing. I'm gonna delete that one out of there because I wanna create a new one. And so to create an automation, you click this add button. So ChurchTrac already has some automations, and I see a few of you said birthday. Yeah, so ChurchTrac already has built in a pre-built template to send a birthday message to your people. So here's what's cool. So I'll just call this birthday, and then this is, I'll just choose a pre-built template, birthday message. There we go, add automation. So here's what's happening. We have two things that I want to bring attention to. In that automation, you have the action, that's what's going to happen, and then you have your options, which is who is it going to happen to and when is that going to happen. So by default right now, what this has done, it automatically created a smart list. If you don't already have one, birthday is today, it created that one, and then it went ahead and said daily at 9 a.m. it's going to run this. And it is going to send this to everybody whose birthday is today. They'll be on that smart list, and that smart list changes every day because everyone's birthday is different. And then it's going to send an email to people automatically saying happy birthday in the email subject field, and then the birthday message, happy birthday. Look at that, first name. So that way it says happy birthday Matt, happy birthday Wes,
it's
happy
actually
birthday
customized
Dave.
and tailored for that person, even though it's an automated thing.
Yes. But I want to take things to the next level because you know what?
Yes.
Even my dentist sends me a happy birthday email, which is crazy. I only see him twice a year and he tells me happy birthday.
Yeah.
But
so we got to go above and beyond
we want to go above and beyond. So here's what I want to do. I want to add another action because you can add as many actions as you want.
Yeah, an automation can do more than one thing at a time. I think that's the best part about the automations.
Yeah, well, it's way better because I can't do more than one thing at a time. So I love the fact that this can. So I'm going to add another action, and what I want it to do is I want to send it to a text, not to that person, because yes, I could have the system send them a happy birthday text, but I personally feel that's a little cold. You know what I want to do? I want it to send a text to a ChurchTrac user, and you know who that user is? It's the pastor.
The pastor.
And it's going to say, I'm just going to say, happy birthday text to, and then I'm going to put their first name, their last name, because the software is automatically going to input this.
Well, if you just select name instead of first and last,
it'll do that too.
It does the whole name.
That's right.
Come on, Wes. Silly Wes. Tricks are for kids.
And then I'm going to put their phone number just in case the pastor's mobile may not have their number on them, but at least the pastor has no excuse now, because now what's going to happen is when this runs at 9 a.m., pastor's going to get however many texts there could be 6 birthdays that day.
Ding, 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 ding.
Pastor's going to get ding, 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 all these texts, happy birthday to so-and-so, here's their information. And so that way the pastor then is being held accountable that I need to go and text or call these people, tell them happy birthday. I love this because automations can be cold if you just do them in a cold manner.
Yeah.
And some things, it's not that they're cold, like some things in automations you just automate because it's busy work, you want to make your life easier.
Yeah.
But things about communicating with people, that's when you want to do a personal touch. And so that's why I like using an automation like this. But there's so many other automations, more specifically like people screen automations that I highly, highly recommend creating. Another one. So we're going to go ahead, I'll click add again. And I want to go ahead, and it's already built in here. Assign a tag when a name is added. I can do that. So I can have a tag automatically assigned when a name is added. Or I can say, you know what, I want a specific user notified when a name is added. So if I add automation here, gotta name it. So I'm gonna call this new name added and notify a user when a new name is added. So I add automation. And now I'd already built it because this is one of the pre-built ones, and it already just assigned it to me. But I can change this at any time, and I can pick a different person if I want. A new name was added, so now I'm going to get an email notification. I can have it set up to get a text notification. I can have it set up to create a task.
So easy.
There are so many automations. watch the automations video. Your mind's going to be blown on just some of the things. We even have automation recipes. I know this was a little outside of the people screen, but it's really a great tool. And we're only talking about people automations. I see Lynn in there talking about accounting transactions. Lynn, there are automations for accounting in that. So reach out to our support team. They can help you out with that.
Dave actually said, I'm making some tasks and chaining them off SmartList as the trigger for guest outreach. Dave, send me, I don't know which camera I'm on. I'm on this camera. Dave, send me an email to matt@churchtrac.com with an explanation for how you're doing that. Because if it's working and it's great, then I would love to share that with some other churches too so that they can do what you're doing.
Yeah, and by the way, if you're doing some cool automations that are saving your ministry a tremendous amount of time, or just making your follow-up or your discipleship like next level, go in the Facebook group. Tell all our people about it, because we want to know.
Yes.
We want to like share this information. I think that's what makes the Facebook group so great, is that it's a place where people are actually able to take their ministry to the next level and help each other as they do that.
I think one of my favorite things about the Facebook group is the fact that it's not just other Facebook users, and it's just a community. And of course, I like it because I'm biased, but my favorite thing about it is that they'll ask questions completely unrelated to ChurchTrac.
Yeah.
They'll turn to the group for wisdom and advice on other areas of ministry, not just, how do I do this thing in the software?
Yeah.
I love it.
All right, so that was kind of like the quick, we just went through like what we have deemed is the things that will make you like a pro user, AKA this is the masterclass of the people screen. Because if you're doing all these things we talked about today, you're going to be leveraging the people screen really well in ChurchTrac, which is ultimately going to transpose to all the other areas of the software. Because if I had to I wish I could draw in real time like a diagram of everything, but everything goes back to the people screen in the same way that everything comes back to Christ and what he did on the cross for us.
Yes.
And so really good stuff. Now we want to open the floor for questions. And there's a lot of you in here.
Yeah, I've answered a few questions in the chat throughout, but if you have any questions, or if I didn't get to a question you asked earlier, drop that into the chat now.
I'll tell you what, let's make life easier.
Okay.
We're going to start the Q&A mode.
Oh, Q&A.
Right now,
Specific
Q&A mode
time.
is enabled.
Nice.
So it's not the chat I want you to drop your question. It's our Q&A mode where you can drop your question for Matt and I, and we can answer them here live on air. This is the beauty of doing these live streams, is that we can tackle these questions together, not only just us two, but all of us together as we look at this, and just see some cool ways to utilize the software.
So while you're thinking of your questions and dropping them into the Q&A, don't forget to check out our YouTube channel. I'll go ahead and drop that into the chat just so that it's waiting for when the Q&A time is over. I just dropped that link into the chat. Click on that link when you can. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. This video will be on the YouTube channel soon, so you can go back and watch. But we've got lots and lots of videos explaining how to use your ChurchTrac account and other really great resources and just fun things that we've been up to in the video section of everything that we do. We also have a Facebook group with other users. We just mentioned it a little while ago. I'll drop the link for that in the chat too. Definitely ask to join that group. It's a great community of thousands of ministers from around the world who are also using ChurchTrac, but love ministry and love the Lord and would love to help you and answer any questions you have about anything. All right, so we've got a few questions coming in. Let's go ahead and tackle them. And also, FYI, you can upvote or like give a thumbs up to questions, which ranks it higher, which makes it more likely that I'll see it and answer it. So if you see someone ask a question and you have that same question, just hit the thumbs up button so that will get pushed up higher.
Yeah, and we're going to try to answer all of these. Now, if you have like a question, just FYI, that is like something that is, it's not going to be just a quick thing we can spout off.
Yeah.
We may have to direct you to our support team, but here's the beauty of that. Our support team, it's one-on-one with us and you and these support tickets, and they answer tickets crazy fast. Unlike this company I'm dealing with to send back a wireless guitar system that is the never-ending saga of my life, we actually respond super quick. So unlike them, that's taken me 2 weeks, you're gonna get an answer in like 25 minutes or something crazy. So there you go.
All right, so St. Peter Lutheran asked, can you add more than one attachment to an email?
Currently, no.
I didn't think so. Yeah, not as of right now.
So send us a support ticket as a feature request and ask for that.
Dwayne asks, can you show again how to set up a smart group for people without a phone number or emails and how to contact them? Yeah, you just showed the smart list. You didn't actually explain exactly how to set it up or what 2 criteria you use for that. So Wes, if you don't mind showing that to them.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. Hopefully, I don't have our. It's funny that they've changed the format of the Q&A, so like I'm
really?
learning it in real time here.
Yeah, I see it too.
So to the people screen. All right, where am I going, Matt?
You're going to smart lists, and then go down to like the no phone number or no email, one of those 2.
Yeah.
I think they just need to know what criteria you set for these things.
Yeah, and this is such a good one. So again, all it is email address is blank for this one. Mobile phone is not blank. And then I just put member status covenant member, but like I doubt you'll actually do that, so I could just delete that one.
There we go.
Yeah.
And same with no cell phone number, except opposite. It's email address is not blank, but mobile phone is blank.
Yeah.
That way, our system will scan through your entire database and basically ask each profile, does this person have an email address but not a phone number, or do they have a phone number and not an email address, and it determines who goes in those lists that way.
Yeah. This is something, this whole no cell phone number thing, I learned that from a church leader that was doing that. Just, that's high level stuff. I mean, even though it's simple and you look at it, like the fact that they're doing this on the reg for stuff like this to get data from their people, super
perfect.
smart.
Southside Vineyard said, does inactive user count toward the people count, or do they have to be archived to not count? You answered your question in the second half. Yes, they have to be archived to not count. The member status, changing the member status does not affect whether or not they count towards your member tier. If they're on the people screen, on that main list, they're counting. You have to archive them for them to not count towards your member tier.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, like member status, that is simply just knowing the status of someone's membership. It is in no way does it affect whether or not they count towards a name tier or not. And so a person is a person, whether you have an adult and a child and like a donor, that is 3 people in the database.
Robin Robinson asked, is there a place where we can see a history of emails we've sent through CT messaging?
So the history of your emails, the software, when you go to email, I don't believe it says the history of your messaging in there. I'm going to double check.
No, show recent emails, but it's only going to show you like when you sent them.
Yeah, and this test account, I don't have any recent ones right now.
Yeah.
So you'll know like what emails, like the date you created them and the status and what smart list it was sent, but it's not going to go to another level of showing you like the individual email and like everything that was in it and stuff. That's something, we've been asked about that before. If we get enough churches asking for it and sending it as a feature request, our developer team will definitely consider something like that, which I just want to reiterate. We are always listening, and like we're trying to, unlike today, we're talking a whole lot. We try to remember we have 2 ears to listen, 1 mouth to talk.
Yep.
And so we're always trying to hear out, some of the things that you would like to see in the software, or things that you think would make ChurchTrac better, because after all, we make it for you. We don't make it for us.
Yep. Glinda asked, can you create a custom report from income statements, like adding a couple things to it? Most of the reports in ChurchTrac, I answered this in chat a little while ago, Glinda, you might not have seen this. Most of the reports in ChurchTrac can be exported to a CSV.
Yeah.
So this goes for reports on the people screen, giving screen, accounting screen. That is basically what allows you to customize it. It exports it to a spreadsheet, and there you can add or remove some line items and some columns and rearrange some things and just rearrange the furniture of your spreadsheet, basically.
Yeah, and that's just pointing out, so I just downloaded a CSV file accidentally there, but many of these things, when you export CSV, because I have a lot of churches, they're like, I want to create a bunch of different graphs and things and stuff. Export it CSV. I see a lot of churches, they put it on Google Sheets real quick.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Just drop that in there. Google Sheets is pretty good about making all those graphs and stuff, so we give you that ability as a user.
Anita asked, I didn't quite understand how to get the option for the checkbox to allow someone to track attendance. Anita, Wes will show this.
Yeah.
You just have to go to that person's profile. Just go to the person that you want to track attendance, go to their profile, click on their name, click on the tags tab at the top of their profile, and then click on the tag that you want to use for tracking attendance. So in this case, that discipleship group, the adults group that Wes is highlighting. If he clicks on that, it opens up this little slide out menu where you can then allow this person to enter attendance. You just toggle that switch.
Yeah.
So that's it. You just set a tag for attendance, go to the person who you want to be tracking attendance, and then just click on that tag and turn that on.
Yeah. And then if you ever need to, you can turn it off. This is so important just because attendance tracking is a big thing for a lot of churches. And wanting to know, like, all right, what are our attendance numbers like for our different small groups or Sunday school classes or worship service? And so being able to give your people the power in Church Connect, your church app that's included with ChurchTrac, it's just so great to be able to do that, and it's all included there. So. And
speaking of Church Connect, the very next question is, how do you set up ChurchTrac so folks can access an online directory? That's in Church Connect.
Yeah.
That's where the directory will live, first of all, but also in that Church Connect feature in your ChurchTrac account. We're not going to get into that because this is about the people screen, but that's where you go into the settings and either activate or deactivate that online directory. So that's where you would do that. But if you have further questions, reach out to the support team. Anita, she already asked that question. All right. Stephanie, did you create small groups in tags or in smart lists? How do I make 5 different small groups and put people in them? We recommend creating a tag. That's what we recommend. And to be really organized with this, you can create like a parent tag for, let's say, small group. Or in this case, this church, we showed you earlier, that's their discipleship group tag. But you can create a tag for small groups. Then you can create sub-tags below that main small group tag for all the individual small groups. That way you can then assign those sub-tags to the people in each of those classes. The benefit of that is that you get to have that label so that you know exactly what group people are in. But then, and this is where we got a little bit of confusion I saw in the chat where I think it was Philip, you were a little bit confused between the difference between tags and smart lists. And you thought they were a little bit redundant. Again, a tag is just a single point of data. A smart list can include multiple points of data. That's one of the big differences. You could then create a smart list that groups everyone that has at least one of those sub-tags on their profile so that everybody, no matter which individual class they're in, they're all in one list. So you know who in your church is participating in your small group program.
Yeah. And in terms of tags and putting people into those small groups, that's why it's so important to leverage that bulk edit feature in ChurchTrac, because then I can go on my people screen and I can say, all right, my small groups 1 class, I'm adding all these people in here that I want to add to my small groups 1, and I'm just randomly picking a bunch of people here. But then when I go to that actions button and I go to bulk edit check names, here I can go ahead and I can say add a tag, and then I can just search that small group tag that I just created, that's how fast it is, and then apply that bulk change, and then yes to continue. And now I've just applied that tag to all those people. So now when I go back to my tags tab just to quickly show that small group I created, so there's my small group 1, and right now it's saying I've got 7 people in that small group. Like that's how fast you can create your different groups for your small groups or Sunday school class, and then add your people to them so you can start tracking attendance or just using it for communication purposes, reports, so much.
So Carl asked a really good question. Can you start posting proposed enhancements and allow users to vote on them? Also, can you post releases on the website and what was included in the release? Not everyone uses social media. You actually can make requests in the software in a support ticket. Just click that orange help button that we showed at the very beginning, click ask us a question, and in that support ticket you can make a feature request. We read every single feature request and we consider every single one. Most of what is in the software now is there because churches asked for it. Also, we do announce it in our blog. Definitely check into our blog periodically. We'll be releasing a blog post like literally today or tomorrow announcing an automation that we added recently for when someone gives for the very first time. So that's a great place to stay up to date on everything that has been added to the ChurchTrac software in recent history and in recent days. Yeah,
lots of great blog posts there that go beyond just what's going on in our software, but also other things to help you in your ministry. So,
yes.
Good stuff.
So Carl, we do have that on the website. So just check into the blog periodically. Lynn Kaler asked, how do you set up the age group in people profile? Not seeing this option or a way to add. Thanks. Oh yeah, you're not going to see that like as a field. Well, you will see which age category somebody falls into in a field.
Correct.
But the way you set that up is just click on any person. It doesn't matter which one. Like he just highlighted the very first person on the list. Then click edit profile. And then scroll until you find the field for the age category. It's right below their birthday. You can change their age category manually, or you can click that edit list button. And even though you highlighted one person's profile to get here, by making any changes to this list, that will affect everybody in your database.
Yeah. It's kind of one of those weird things, I'll admit, is sort of hidden. It's not hidden, it's just we were trying to think where's the best place to put this, and that just kind of was the natural place we landed on.
Yeah. Same with member status.
Yeah.
When you go to the member status to edit that list, you're not just editing that list for that one member. Any changes you make on that list when you edit that cascades and affects everybody on the people screen.
Yeah. All right. Other questions?
Divine Word asked, when are you going to enhance your reporting system? It is very limited.
We appreciate you being honest.
We need to be able to sort. Yeah, we appreciate your honesty. Again, send a feature request. We actually have had some feedback similar to that lately.
Who is that from that asked that?
Divine Word.
Divine Word. And so here's something to just kind of bring you into our world of, when you're creating a software application, you're always trying to find that balance between giving the information for churches in a palatable way, because there are a lot of church leaders that they just need basic reports and everything, and then you have some church leaders that want to take things to an incredibly high level and they want to do all this manipulation of data and everything. And so the reason we have our reports built in a way to where we have kind of the basic reports that generate immediately for PDF, and then we have the other ability to export to CSV. We've done that because the reality is a lot of the people that ask for super advanced reports that do all these things, we're never going to appease all of them because they want very, very, very specific things that are so incredibly specific that it's hey, why don't you just export that data and do it yourself? I'm not trying to cop out and say that we just don't want to do things. I'm just saying we're trying to find that balance of making a software that's user friendly for 95% of churches that use it, and then for the other 5% of people that really go deep like you, still giving you the ability to export a lot of this data so that way you can put that on an Excel sheet real quick and then create other different formulas or different, we don't call them pivot tables anymore, but charts and graphs, stuff like that. But we're always trying to make the reports better. We're always trying to do that.
Katie Ford asked, if we want to track attendance at worship, does every service need to be an event? And the answer is yes.
Yep.
If you want to track attendance, attendance is tied to an event. You're tracking attendance for an event at your church, so you have to add an event to the calendar to track attendance for it. So the answer is yes. Lynn, has there been any discussion on adding pivot tables and stats type reports in the reports? Definitely request that. Again, we're hitting that pretty hard. Definitely send in that request and we'll consider it.
Yeah, and again, it just comes back to we're not going to make something that makes 5 people out of the thousands of churches that use our software happy. There has to be enough churches asking for specific things for us to consider it, just because, number one, we don't want to overcomplicate the software. As Cindy was saying, we love the reports and we don't want to add too many features. That's the vast majority of our users. We don't want to overcomplicate things, but we also don't want our software to be lacking for the majority of users as well.
All right, let's see. Lynn R. asked, has there been any discussion on reformatting the people data entry screen? We actually just reformatted it.
Yeah,
that's something that we did very recently.
So I can't talk about much because our developers, obviously, they give me insight into things they're working on. So number one, we have made the whole process of adding people, I think, more streamlined to where now when you go to add a person or family, this pop-out menu comes out, which is vastly different from the way it used to be. It looks so much cleaner, and being able to add all these different fields and everything. But we're also working on some pretty remarkable things. So just imagine this, everybody. Let me get your attention here.
Yeah, close.
Imagine a church starting to use ChurchTrac for the first time, and the idea of having to piece together all their people data and everything. Imagine being able to go from having zero database of people data to now you have a very robust, vast database of all the data you want on your people within a couple days. That's something we're working on right now to make it happen, to make it really easy for you to have a church database so remarkably quick. That's just one of the many things we're doing. It's pretty wild stuff. I can't talk more about it. The developers are probably watching right now what are you doing? Stop sharing. But yeah, we're trying to innovate and just make this whole idea of managing data at your church, keeping track of people data, we're just making it easier.
Mm-hmm. Now, William Perry just asked a great question. Why do some tags have a date showing and others do not? So if you click on Jamie's tags tab, there's a date next to some of those tags and others not. Those tags are used for attendance tracking, and that date represents the last time that person was checked in for attendance with that tag.
Correct. Yeah.
So that's how you know, you can kind of quickly know at a glance, oh, it's been a couple months since this person has been to this small group or been in worship or been to this or that.
Yeah, although I'd argue making an attendance report on the event screen is going to be where it's at and do some cool stuff.
But like it's just a good quick at a glance for an individual.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's actually a report in the event screen that shows you like absentees and also people who have attended, so you can see either of those things. But if you're in someone's profile, you can at least real quick verify if they've been somewhere recently.
Yeah. Chris is talking about face recognition. Oh, we're going down a deep road here. Oh man.
Stephanie, is there a way to create a form that will link to pay to allow people to buy t-shirts for an event? And the answer is actually yes. It's on the events and attendance screen. You can create a registration form.
Yeah.
If you have linked a Stripe account, that's the merchant processor that we integrate with. If you've linked a Stripe account to your ChurchTrac account, you can actually take payments for events, for something tied to an event, like a t-shirt, if you need someone to have a t-shirt ahead of like youth camp or VBS or this or that. Yeah, you can actually take payments for stuff like that through the registrations on the event screen.
All right. We answered a bunch of questions, surprisingly. They just kind of flew out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Why can't automations from QCar, why can't automations not message non-ChurchTrac users?
Well, we can only send a text to people you have a phone number on file for.
Yeah. So I think, Carl, you were looking at the automations and didn't realize that there's actually two options.
Oh,
that's what it was. Yeah.
Yes,
so when you're creating those automations, like the birthday one, so I can send an SMS to a ChurchTrac user, or I can send an SMS that's going to that specific person on that automation. So yes, you can send them.
I apologize, Carl. Yes, you can send a message to a non-user.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Dave asked a very good question. This is actually more for a feature request. I highly recommend, Dave, if you're watching, send this as a feature request. He wants visibility into the automations executed for auditing and debugging. That's a great idea. Send that as a feature request, and we will definitely consider it. All right, Lynn asked, here's my last item. Thanks, gentlemen, for always doing a great job. ChurchTrac does rock. Thank you, Lynn. You rock. We love all of you. We have really enjoyed all of the questions that you've sent us and chatting with you and showing you how to use the people screen. We know that most of you are already the pro users because some of your questions have been so pointed and detailed. So we're really proud of the work that you're doing, and we know that you can take your use of your ChurchTrac account to the next level. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay up to date on everything that we're doing and to get to watch this YouTube video, or this workshop again in the next few days. And also be sure to join our Facebook group so that you can be a part of a growing community of other ministers and ask questions there and offer your own advice and wisdom for everything that you're doing in your ChurchTrac account. We look forward to the next time we do this. We'll be doing, is it the worship screen next?
Yeah, so stay tuned because we've got a lot more good stuff to come, not only with these master classes, but we are coming out with some pretty unreal features that I can't talk about.
Lehigh Valley said, I just want Wes to get in more trouble by talking about new features.
Literally every time we do a live stream, the developers meet me at the door and being like, so what'd you tell them about this time, Wes? And I'm like,
you can't do that, Wes.
So stay tuned. So many great things to come around the bend. And we're getting used to which camera do we look at. We look at this one now.
Yes.
You all have a fantastic rest of your day. We'll talk to you soon.